Hi Exiles, Old Man Gaming here. I've been a long-time Path of Exile 1 player, not a paid content creator. There's a big difference between those who get paid to play and those of us who play for the love of the game and paid to support GGG. I've invested countless hours and plenty of my own money into PoE 1 over the years because I loved it. But after spending over 100 hours in Path of Exile 2, I've gone from hype to heartbreak. While I share my thoughts on Path of Exile 2, you'll see footage of my Ice Sorceress build in various states of progression in the background. This is my third attempt at creating a build that might actually succeed in the endgame. Regardless, it is a great job of showcasing just how stunning this game looks and sounds. When I first logged into PoE 2, it felt like a breath of fresh air. The visuals and sound design were incredible, and it seemed like a reward for supporting GGG all these years. I knew there would be issues. It's early access, but I was confident they'd be resolved. However, the more I played, the more I realized how far the game still has to go. If you played PoE 1, you can finish the PoE 2 campaign in about 20 to 30 hours. But that's where the cracks start to show. For casual players like us, finding time to play can be a challenge. I actually had to take time off work to hit 100 hours of gameplay. And even then, it was only possible because I have an incredibly supportive wife. For most players, carving out that kind of time just isn't realistic. And unfortunately, the campaign and progression don't feel worth the effort it takes. Early on, poison and chaos damage are major hurdles. Chaos resistance is nearly impossible to get at low levels, and the game doesn't provide enough tools to mitigate it. This makes certain encounters feel unfair, especially for players still figuring out their builds. It's a difficulty spike that could easily be toned down to make the experience less punishing. Crafting in Path of Exile 2 is another major pain point. The low drop rates of crafting materials make it incredibly hard to create usable gear, especially during the campaign. If you craft an item and it turns out poorly, your only option is to save up 3 of that item to try your luck at merging them into something usable. And if that doesn't work, you're back to square one. This process eats through your crafting currency and resources far faster than you can reasonably find them, leaving casual players stuck with subpar gear and no clear way forward. At later levels, when you start using runes, you can't change runes, so if you upgrade a piece of gear with different stats, you will most likely have to change out the rest of your gear because of it. This feels more like punishment than progression. Dying in Path of Exile 2 feels more punishing than ever, and not in a way that adds challenge or excitement. It's just painful. Campaign zones already take too long to complete, so adding a system where deaths respawn all monsters feels like overkill. And to make matters worse, you're often resurrected right next to the mobs that killed you, since most checkpoints are close to challenging content. And there is no option to respawn in town to regroup. This creates a frustrating loop of dying repeatedly with no way to recover. But it doesn't end there. If you die to one of the many broken after-death effects, before you've had a chance to pick up loot from a rare mob, that loot is gone when you resurrect. Losing hard-earned rewards because of unavoidable deaths doesn't just feel bad. It completely drains the fun from the experience. It's not challenging, it's demoralizing. Ascendancies in Path of Exile 2 are another major frustration, especially for newer or casual players. Unlike in PoE 1, you can't change your ascendancy once you've made your choice. If you make the wrong decision, you're completely out of luck, and for someone still learning the game, this could ruin their entire build. On top of that, the trials required to unlock your ascendancy are way too difficult with limited opportunities to complete them. What's even worse is that your ascendancy progression is now tied to mechanics like Ultimatum and Sanctum, 2 of the least loved mechanics from Path of Exile 1. This design choice feels mind-boggling. It's tedious, restrictive, and far from enjoyable. For many players, including myself, this could easily become one of the biggest deal breakers if it isn't addressed. When you reach the endgame, the issues don't stop. The system is confusing and unintuitive, requiring outside research to figure out what's going on. Death penalties in maps are even harsher than in the campaign. You lose the map, unclaimed loot, mods like bosses or rituals, and hours of experience. Then there's the issue of map sustain. If you're in subpar gear while learning the endgame and dying in maps, sustaining your maps beyond Tier 6 becomes a costly and painful process. Even putting Atlas points into map drops doesn't seem to help much. It's still horrible. Having a map to run should never be something players need to worry about. Instead, GGG seems to have doubled down on making the game tedious and less fun. When you add up all these frustration points, the experience becomes overwhelming. What's most disappointing is how much this feels like a bait and switch. GGG promised meaningful crafting, enhanced build diversity, and a more rewarding endgame. Instead, we've ended up with a game that feels more tedious and less fun than its predecessor. Instead of feeling like part of the community I've supported for years, I now feel like I'm on the outside looking in. Some people are saying that Path of Exile 1 veterans should just go back to PoE 1 if we don't like PoE 2. But that feels like a slap in the face. After promising so much and showing us this new, beautiful game, telling us to go back to an 11-year-old version is a huge insult to the community that supported GGG for so long. I hope GGG remembers that casual players, those with full-time jobs, are likely the ones buying the most support packs. Ignoring us would be a massive mistake. So, with all of this in mind, here's my advice for casual players. Wait until the full release. The frustration while they take the time to fix things is brutal. If you do want to keep playing out of fear of missing out, just remember that the game is still under construction, and it may be a while before it feels fun, rewarding, and worthwhile. I'm still hopeful that after their holiday break, GGG will address these issues. What about you guys? Have your experiences with Path of Exile 2 been similar, or are you finding it more enjoyable? Let me know in the comments. And if you appreciated this honest review, don't forget to like and subscribe for more Old Man Gaming content. Thanks for watching.
This is not over. Not yet. I return you to the embrace of death! It is done.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.